The Switch is strong and hitting hard, but don't count the 3DS out yet. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 3DS games you'll want to play in 2018. Number 10 is The Alliance Alive, a Japanese developer by the name of Cattle Call's improvement over their JRPG formula, which, by the way, is basically a mix of a 90s JRPG with a few experimental ideas, set in a world split into two realms after a great war 1,000 years ago, which doesn't sound groundbreaking, but it's not usually the actual narrative arc itself that is groundbreaking in a JRPG, but rather the characterization and general feeling it generates. Yoshitaka Murayama of Suikoden wrote the story, so that's boding pretty well for it if you ask me. The battle system revolves around formations, which should be pretty interesting to see. I've read that the game is a little bit easier than it should be, however that hasn't really hindered my experience with JRPGs in the past, as long as the story is good and the battle system is engaging, so it should be interesting to see how the United States receives this game. It's out as of March 27th. It definitely looks like it's going to be worth it, so check it out. Number 9 is Shakedown Hawaii, a game we've seen elsewhere. Basically a big business, white-collar, taking over the land crime simulator. The game describes itself as a quote-unquote legitimate corporation building itself via open-world missions, shakedowns, sabotage, and property acquisition, which sounds very legitimate compared to the other things. However, being it's usually a result of the other things, probably not so great actually. In fact, Shakedown Hawaii looks to be kind of an absurdist game about a real kind of actual problem in the world, but making it a fun, absurdist, beat 'em up, blow 'em up open world game might get more attention than screaming on a megaphone on a street corner, for instance. Also, let's just say this, it looks fun as hell. This is a game that I really want to play. It looks like somewhere between GTA and a bullet hell, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Shakedown Hawaii does not have a release date yet, but is coming this year. Number 8 is Dillon's Dead Heat Breakers, the latest in the Dillon's Rolling Western series, which is an action/exploration/tower defense game that hasn't seen a new game in a while, about 4 years since the last, and the original games are actually pretty fun. They're not perfect by any means, they're sort of an exploration of a concept, and the second one got kind of mixed reviews. But the thing is that the art style combined with the sort of combination of various game styles in one, it's something that's different, and I feel like if they did get the formula perfect, it probably would be a big thing. It's nice to see that they do want to keep trying, and hopefully this is the one that gets it right because it is a really cool idea, and it would be nice to see it have a life on the Switch later on. It doesn't have a release date yet, but we'll see it sometime in 2018. Number 7 is Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age, the latest in a very long-running, pretty well-regarded JRPG series. When Square Enix used to be Squaresoft and Enix, Dragon Quest was the answer to Final Fantasy, and retains a very large amount of all of its various signature traits, all the way down to the artwork by Akira Toriyama, best known as the creator of Dragon Ball, but the person who did the artwork for Chrono Trigger and all the previous Dragon Quest games. Instead of the more gritty, realistic look that Final Fantasy has gone for, Dragon Quest is trending more and more towards Dragon Ball. And that's certainly not a bad thing, having the great traditional JRPG turn-based battles, looking closer and closer to the artist's actual concept for what they want it to look like. Number 6 is SteamWorld Dig 2, which, like the original, is a platform mining adventure intended to play like a Metroidvania. Now that's a lot of stuff all in one thing, but if you follow that description, pretty much literally that's what the game is. It's not like a difficult concept to understand once you start playing it, and it really works well. On top of that, it's got great graphics, including on the Nintendo 3DS, which actually got the game last in February, but it's out, people love it, it is great, because it provides a unique experience and builds on the original. Number 5 is Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey Redux, an enhanced 3DS port of the DS game. It's an RPG with a turn-based battle system, but it is not typical. I mean, in some ways it's typical, but it brings a lot of different ideas to the whole thing. It utilizes both screens, for instance, on a DS or 3DS very well, as you take on demons, wearing a special suit that you can upgrade over the progression of the game, which, by the way, also includes a pretty good story. It draws from so many different types of mythologies and provides probably one of the more varied experiences you'll get in a JRPG, and it's coming to the 3DS on the 15th of May. Number 4 is Sushi Striker: The Way of Sushido, which is a puzzle adventure game that uses the touchscreen to create chains of sushi, which you will have to hold for up to 7 seconds or while they break. It has a pretty absurd story. Sushi has been banned after a conflict called the Sushi Struggles. You're a member of the Sushi Liberation Front and are trying to defeat an empire. The way you're doing that is by stacking plates, making chains of sushi, and throwing food at people. It's one of those kind of games where it seems fairly absurd, but the game mechanics are kind of what make it. They obviously made a goofy story around some game mechanics they made up, and, well, I can think of worse ways to come up with a video game. Honestly, it looks pretty cool. It's coming on June 8th, and I will probably check this one out. Number 3 is Kirby Battle Royale, a game that's been out for a couple of months and maybe hasn't been given a fair shake. It's a top-down brawler, and it's not necessarily going to set the world on fire, but it's more than competent, and I don't necessarily think that it was treated as fairly as it could have been in reviews. People really do like it. Is it the best Kirby game or even the best Kirby fighting game? I don't know, but it does offer a lot of modes of play, and they are actually worthwhile to play. The multiplayer, where you can play local or online, is kind of the reason the game exists, I think, because that is actually a hell of a lot of fun. It came out back in January, and I'd say it's worth at least looking at. I thought it was a lot of fun. Number 2 is Detective Pikachu, which is an adventure game that you play as a kid and work with a Pikachu that has an oddly deep voice who solves mysteries and calls himself a detective. The game doesn't really play a lot different from other detective games, but it leans really hard into the charm, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It actually just came out this month, and if you're looking for something interesting and fun and love detective games, this is probably a good one to look at. Unless you hate Pokemon, in which case I would avoid it like the plague, but there's not a lot of people like that. And finally, number 1 is Shovel Knight: King of Cards. King of Cards is basically another campaign for Shovel Knight. If you already own Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, this is available for free to you. And if you're in any way familiar with the Shovel Knight franchise, you know what you're getting, but you're getting 30 new stages divided between 4 worlds. And really, there's no way you could ever get me to say, hey, I don't really want any more Shovel Knight. No, I'll take more Shovel Knight at any time. It's a fantastic platformer that reminds me of a lot of great games from the past, while adding its own spin and brilliant level design. We don't have a date for it yet, but it shouldn't be that long, and it's more Shovel Knight. Bring the Shovel Knight. Which 3DS game are you looking for in 2018? Or if you're already playing the thing that you think is probably going to be your favorite, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you like this video, please click the button. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.